Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Friday, so happy Friday to you all. Got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today, and we'll also take a peek at the weekend also. Won't get super detailed on tomorrow or Sunday. We'll get obviously more detailed on today. We're expecting 3 areas to watch for the chance for some strong to severe thunderstorms throughout the next several hours into the afternoon and then into the evening, maybe into the overnight hours. But each individual area does not look like a major concern by any means, but we certainly need to talk about it just because there is a chance for some severe weather. So we'll try to figure that out for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And a quick reminder, I will not have a video tonight. Me and my wife are going on a date night. Really looking forward to it. I'm going to go see a movie, get some dinner, all that good stuff that I think is very needed in a marriage. So that's what we're going to do, and definitely looking forward to it. So my next video after this will be tomorrow morning, and we'll definitely keep you updated. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, you know the deal. Please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. We got an awesome family-like atmosphere here, and I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's get rolling this morning. Water vapor loop. It's kind of the same setup. It's changed up a little bit, but let's get this thing rolling over here. You still got this kind of southwest, westerly flow out here. So you got pieces of energy that's kind of shooting off this way. You got a very weak piece of energy they call it a short wave, riding out of Mexico that will ride over Texas, somewhere over Texas in general, and will spark the initiation with big time surface heating. When I say surface heating, I'm meaning temperatures where you're standing when you walk outside. It'll be very warm in a lot of Texas today, well into the 90s, mid 90s. Somebody might sneak 100 degrees in Texas today. So you got big time thermodynamics. So this is going to provide an atmosphere for 1 or 2 big storms right in central Texas today. So we need to be aware of that, and we'll talk a little bit on that later in the video as a piece of energy worked its way through. And then you got ridging building also. So you kind of have an upper ridge that's building into this region. And what happens is these areas of storms, these pieces of energy, we call them ridge riders, even though this isn't a really great example of it right here, but it's a pattern we see a lot in the summer. And pieces of energy will ride up to kind of the left side of this ridge, then ride right back down, almost like a roller coaster. And this will kind of, it's kind of happening right now. But you have what we call a mesoscale convective system ongoing in Mississippi, Louisiana right now. A lot of showers and storms. This will try to re-energize down here, maybe in this area today. We'll have another chance of severe weather. And then you got more elevated convection that'll pop off up here today. And we finally are beginning to lose the influence of this low pressure, but you will have another day of some wraparound moisture that'll make its way into the region. But it is steadily getting on out of here. Thank the good Lord for that, because you guys in the Northeast have had some miserable weather over the last several days. Storm Prediction Center, as of right now, the update as of 6:17 Eastern Time, you now have a slight risk in Nebraska, so level 2 out of 5, and you certainly could have some severe weather up here. And then a pretty wide slight risk down here in the heart of Texas into North Texas. But keep in mind, this is a very conditional threat. There might only be 1 or 2, maybe 3 storms at the most that really get going in central Texas, but trying to figure out where exactly this pops up will be a challenge. We'll see what happens. And then we got this marginal risk for severe weather here, down here near the bayou and southern areas of Mississippi and Alabama, large portion of southern Mississippi, where you could have you got some stronger storms ongoing right now. You're being waken up with a lot of lightning and thunder out there in areas of the deep south this morning, Louisiana, Mississippi speaking. And then this energy could kind of fire up down here. So we'll watch for that. But tornado threat today. I mean, you got a threat in all 3 of these regions, a 2% risk in all areas. So it's not a non-zero threat. I don't think any threat is a non-zero threat when it comes to a tornado risk. I always want to remind people of that, even if it doesn't show up on here. But you got 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Damaging winds are highest in Texas, where you got a 15% risk of winds pushing 50 knots or higher. That is that's 55 to 60 miles per hour and mile per hour readings. And hail threat, Highest up here, more cold air aloft. You could certainly have some large hail with some of these elevated storms in Nebraska. You got two 15% risk areas in the yellow. That's hail pushing 1 inch or diameter or larger. And then you got the 10% risk hatched area, which is the black outline region. That's a chance of that's a 10% chance of significant hail, which is in excess of 2 inch or diameter or larger. So not as big of a hail threat here in the deep south today with this setup. But let's go on and talk about the southeast first. This morning, you're dealing with some showers anywhere from Arkansas to through areas of western Tennessee, areas of the deep south. They're just kind of scattered and smothered about. Waffle House reference there. But I will mention that the HRRR model isn't doing very well with what is actually happening. I mean, it shows moisture there, but this is a big area of showers and storms working its way now out of Louisiana into Mississippi. It's still affecting areas of southeast Louisiana, but you got a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder with this. So Jackson, you're going to have a messy morning commute for sure. So this is a pretty big area. I mean, you zoom out even more of a broad look, pretty huge area of showers and storms ongoing in the deep south, western deep south this morning, moving out of Arkansas and Louisiana into Mississippi. So we'll see how much this kind of maintains itself as it drifts kind of east, and then maybe southeast eventually. Does it kind of get rejuiced up? We'll see what happens here, but this could produce a lot of rain, could produce maybe a quick 1 to 2 inches of rain in certain areas as it continues to move deeper into Mississippi. But we'll keep this rolling here. Getting throughout the morning hours, the HRRR model is saying that this will kind of lose some steam, but you'll have some showers about midday that will drift into North Georgia. Will they make it to South Carolina? It's quite possible. And then this is when we watch the reinitiation of some storms. How much does the atmosphere destabilize here in the southern half of Mississippi, southeast Louisiana, even down here near southern Alabama, near Mobile? Where we could have some stronger storms that sweep through, and then we could just have some ongoing shower activity more so here in Georgia. In fact, we're going to get a better look at this. And like I said, this moisture will head on out. Reinitiation of some showers and storms could be ongoing. Some of these could be some strong to severe in southern Arkansas as we get later in the morning. And then I really think these storms could pack a punch. Jackson Point south in southern Mississippi, southeast Louisiana, a little bit later today. This is around 4 to 5 p.m. These could produce some hail, a brief tornado, and some damaging winds. So definitely be aware of this. Some big-time spring storms are possible. But when I say big time, I'm not really talking about like a tornado outbreak or anything like that. But these could pack a punch later this afternoon, this evening. So be aware of this near Baton Rouge, south of Jackson, into Gulfport as we get into the evening hours. If you got any Friday night activities in these areas, it could be a stormy night. So definitely have a way to get alerts and definitely look at a radar before you go out to be aware of what's going on. But some showers will continue to kind of drift into the North Georgia area, the southern areas of the Cumberland Plateau late into the evening hours. Northeast today, quiet this morning, but once again, a little bit of daytime juice in the atmosphere, some re-energizing showers, maybe a thunder shower up here in New York State, drifting all the way into eastern Pennsylvania. Some could form in even central PA, and you might get some action again in southern Vermont, New Hampshire, all the way down to Massachusetts later into the evening. And remember, it'll be hard to predict exactly where this falls, but anywhere in this region right into here, some of these could produce some small hail, cold air aloft. But the good news is this low pressure down here is steadily beginning to leave the picture. You guys will warm up. Weak ridging, upper ridging will kind of influence the temperatures a little bit more. And then as we get into tomorrow, let's see if there's another day. Yeah, you could have another day tomorrow of some isolated showers, but you can tell it's a lot less widespread as we get into Saturday. But kind of another dreary day, not as cold as the last few days, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but another day of just some ongoing showers in the Northeast. South Central U.S., we kind of already talked about Arkansas, but bang, here, a little weak piece of energy kind of flies through, and then here is a pop-up storm or two right in the heart of Texas. You got 1 or 2, maybe 3 stronger storms in this area right into here. Okay, so some of these could certainly pack a punch, and they won't have much flow aloft to really move much. And in fact, we'll get a closer look at Central Texas, and I'll try to pinpoint where I think maybe some of these storms could form. And, certainly if we keep this in motion, bang, these storms form. Keelan, Waco, south of Waco could form. The Alston area, I would say just north of Alston. I would say in and around the Waco area, point south or southwest, but I would say north of Alston, kind of in that region right into here. Could possibly certainly see some big storms, maybe the Round Rock area, the Briggs area, Burnett area. Could certainly see some big storms, but it could just as easily form a little bit closer, more so in the Waco area, a little bit further south, maybe in the San Antonio, Alston area. But the HRRR model likes the idea of it forming right into here. And these will have a chance with big time thermodynamics. Remember, higher dew points, higher surface temperatures, and in response, you got higher CAPE levels. That's the available potential in the atmosphere for these storms to fuel off of. And these will kind of explode, and they won't last long. By the time you get into the evening, we'll be done. I don't think there'll be much movement with these storms either, just because you have weak flow aloft, meaning there's not much of a push in the atmosphere to move these. So they could be very photogenic storms that could explode right in the middle of Texas and then weaken within an hour or two. But Nebraska could be an active day today, but also you could have some showers ongoing from Minneapolis, Minnesota, all the way through the heart of Wisconsin, all the way into the Green Bay area. Could be kind of a showery day in the UP of Michigan. No snow, but could definitely see some shower activity, especially in the southern to eastern UP areas. Could get some storm activity, some elevated storm activity in southern Minnesota today and even in Iowa. But then we'll watch as we get a little bit later into the kind of afternoon, evening hours, and we'll jump down here. Could have some more widespread storm development. And this is getting kind of late. It's about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Could have an area of showers and storms that makes its way through South Dakota and Nebraska. And, as we get closer to midnight, some of these storms down here and kind of south central Nebraska, right in this region, right down here, we got to watch. We'll see if there's enough heating, enough thermos that kind of rise in this area, and a little bit of a weak flow aloft to spin some of the most southerly storms on this kind of complex area of storms, if you will. Some of these could produce a lot of hail. I could see up here producing large hail, but I could see these storms up here producing kind of those storms that produce a ton of hail, a ton of kind of smaller hail where, it like covers the ground. I could see this being a setup, a little bit more cold, dry air aloft up here in Nebraska. So I would not be surprised one bit if we hear about some big-time hailstorms up in Nebraska a little bit later tonight. And then this moves through. Could just be a stormy night in central to northern to western Nebraska tonight, overnight for sure. Temperatures today, look at the heating in Texas, all the way into southwest Oklahoma. Widespread 90s. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I bet you someone hits 100 degrees in Texas today, maybe even southwest Oklahoma. Big time heating in this region. Everywhere else, basically, the northern plains a little bit above average temperature-wise, maybe a slightly above average. Big time melting of snow up in the UP, but a nice day here. It's a lot better in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, where you got, you might flirt with 80 degrees in and around the Illinois area, depending on where you're located. Mid 70s, maybe some upper 70s in Indiana. You got 70s all the way into the southern to central part of Michigan. This certainly isn't uncommon for this time of the year as we're getting later in the year, but more so a nice, just kind of late spring day here in areas of the Mid-South, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast today. But you're still hanging on to some chilly air, widespread 50s, maybe some 40s in the Northeast. But you notice it's a lot warmer compared to the last several days. So you're getting there. You're making some progress, but still kind of chilly out there. Getting into tomorrow. I mentioned yesterday that I thought it was going to be an active weekend for the Midwest, and sure enough, we got a slight risk of severe weather in western Illinois, areas of Missouri, and then a section of southeast Iowa for tomorrow. And as of now, you do have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. And this is as these just pieces of energy kind of ride the upper portion of this ridge, and areas of storms kind of form, and they kind of ride up and then they ride down. And in fact, you can actually see it here. And you got the 15% risk of winds, 50 knots or higher, and then hail, 15% risk. And what's interesting is you can really see the influence of the ridge here, right? And what I mean is let me get this little thing back out. So the ridge is building into this kind of region right into here, right? So you got storms that are flying. That's why you got the marginal risk. The more amplified right here, probably because you have maybe a weak surface low flying through. This is providing a little bit more ingredients for severe weather. Again, for it might be another day, another active day, more so in Iowa for Sunday. And then the flow begins to kind of move more zonal, which is more west to east. And then it moves more northwest to southeast, like this. They kind of ride that ridge. So therefore, you see how this marginal risk in the Ohio Valley and areas of the Great Lakes region is more so kind of a marginal risk that's kind of sticking out from northwest to southeast. It's because area of storms could be moving in that direction. I love these little setups. To me, there's not a lot of interesting weather in the summer. It's really just standard as it goes. It's very hot, it's humid, and you have afternoon pulse thunderstorms. But sometimes you get these ridges that bubble up like this, and it's fascinating to see how the flow works around these ridges of high pressure that build, these upper ridges that build into this region. And typically, if you're under this ridge, that typically means that you're going to get very warm and kind of sinking air, dry air that just you don't have much in the way of thunderstorm development. And there it is right there. And a great example of this is it shows the 500 millibar heights, and this is the ridge building. And I wish I should have drew on this. And if you look at the ridge, you see the bubble up right here that continues to move into this region. This begins to rise kind of more so this way, shift east and rise a little bit to the north. And what happens is the jet stream is digging right into here, and the systems kind of fly across like this, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Hopefully it does. But, I'll try to get this in motion again, and you'll watch these warmer colors right here, the kind of darker yellows, more closest to the orange and red. And you see how this nudges up. We get into Saturday morning, it nudges up into the Midwest even further, and then it kind of stays right there. And you see this ridge right here. This will actually be what causes our warm up in the southeast. Everybody in the southeast and the south are wondering, when is it going to warm up? Well, this will cause us to warm up next week. And in fact, you might get a little bit of a kind of a northwest flow as we get into early next week. And some of these pieces of energy will come up and they'll ride down, and they'll come back down. This could create a stormy pattern in this region next week. We'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting setup. Love talking these setups. So we'll see what happens. But you notice the ridge build up this week and all the way into this region, like I just showed you. And that is why you have storms all the way up into areas of Iowa tomorrow, because basically the interstate of where all the energy flows through is jolted up here. So that's why all the weather is happening right into here. And that's why we have that slight risk for Saturday. And then, we're not in the Sunday time frame, but that's why we also have a risk right into here, just a marginal risk. So it's always interesting, these upper ridges, how they build, how they influence the steering of all this energy, whether it just be weak little pulses of energy or stronger pulses. But it's always fascinating to talk. There's so much more to the weather than I think what people realize. And it's not as cut and dry as what people think it is. Saturday high temperatures, I'll briefly talk about this. Very warm again. Remember, you can see the ridge on here. You see how the ridge is up all the way up into here? Anybody under this ridge is very warm. There's a boundary north of the ridge separating very warm air and very cool air. So anybody who's north of the ridge, influence of troughing, cold front, a boundary, you're cooler. So down here, very warm, 90s. You switch it into the Sunday time frame where the ridge shifts, and the upper ridge shifts a little east. It's warming up even more in Illinois. First day of widespread 90s in Missouri, and you'll probably hit 90s somewhere in Illinois also, low 90s. Very warm. You're warming up in the south also. You move to the east, and we'll back it up one day. Look at Saturday. A little bit of a weak cold air damming event could affect the Carolinas, and you're going to be pretty cool in the Carolinas, 70s. And probably some clouds, maybe some peaks of sun in the Carolinas, but warm. The further west you get under the influence of that upper ridge, the warmer it gets. So it's going to be a day where, I mean, you just got all this snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia, but yeah, heck, you're going to warm into the 60s, maybe some 70s, rapid melting, and you already have some rapid melting. But look tomorrow in the Northeast, widespread 60s, even some 70s. So you're making big improvement, and then Sunday looks even warmer and better as the ridge begins to shift a little bit further east. So we'll certainly watch this. Very interesting setup. And from my folks in Florida, I had one person complaining that I don't mention South Florida much, and you guys do get cropped out sometimes by these maps. But certainly very warm Sunday and Saturday. Saturday could be quite warm along the western coast of Florida, especially. But and also for Sunday, not quite as warm, but definitely warming up. The pools will begin to warm up in the southeast if they remain cool. But that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a great day, and I'll be with y'all in the morning, tomorrow morning. God bless.